Adrian, Willie, you're very welcome here today, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us. What we're probably going to do to help us to understand a little bit more about the wonderful partnership between Connacht Rugby and Dexcom is play a very short video outlining it. And then we'll come back and talk a little further about the relationship and the impact of Dexcom's fabulous investment in Athenry.
We don't come here expecting to find the road easy. We hear the echoes of legends past. We're proud to be welcomed into the Connacht community, to be a part of the sea of green. We feel history's heartbeat in Connacht. It has helped inspire us, and we're keen to help write the next chapter. So we'll create 1,000 jobs right here. And with you, we'll empower millions of people around the world to better manage their health.
It's a pleasure to join you to congratulate Dexcom on your landmark investment here in Athenry in County Galway. It's one of the biggest ever private sector and multinational investments in the west of Ireland.
And when we broke new ground, we began a new era on the fields of Athenry. But we need you, your talent, your ambition, your strength. Together, we will honour traditions whilst we create new opportunities and help build a new home for Connacht Rugby. Our future is here.
What a wonderful video of collaboration and partnership. But what I think we might do just to kick off our conversation, Adrian, if I could ask you to give us a little more of a flavour of Dexcom, what it's doing in Athenry, and maybe as well to just fill us in as to why Dexcom chose Ireland for its first manufacturing site in Europe.
Yeah, sure, Mary, and thanks for having us this morning.
Pleasure.
And, my boss Barry Regan was trying to be here, and I know he wanted to be here, so he's worked with a lot of your team over a number of years to make that investment happen, but unfortunately he couldn't be here today, so hopefully I'll just fill in. But basically Dexcom are a very young medtech company in terms of, like, they're about 25 years old, so 1999 they were established. We manufacture products that help people manage their diabetes. So our mission is to empower people to manage their health, and diabetes is the area we focus on. So typically, and I'm sure people in the audience know somebody who's had type 1 or type 2 diabetic. Type 1 in layman's terms is like a lifelong condition. It's just the way we are. Type 2 is more of a lifestyle condition. And when you look at the numbers, in the early 2000s, 200 million people ish were diagnosed with diabetes, and by 2045 that's closer to 850 million. So it's a problem, and it's a growing problem. If you're diagnosed with type 1, it's typically a young person. Okay, and the traditional way of doing that was, people would have to take a blood prick and then measure the glucose in their blood, and they get a data point in that time. And I'm still learning about it, but like the way CGM works, continuous glucose monitoring, is we make a device in Athenry that will go on your arm. It's about the size of a euro coin, so it's very unintrusive. There's a small wire that goes under the skin. It measures the glucose level, and it sends a signal to the app in your phone every 5 minutes. So you can imagine for a diabetic, that's phenomenal information to have live anytime you want it. We set alerts on the phone so you can know whether you're going too high or too low. And both conditions are very difficult. And when you take away the numbers, as I've been learning about this over the last 2.5 years that I'm with the company, we have a young man, and I spoke about this the day we did the opening, who lives near Athenry. He was diagnosed at 11. Well, at 11 years of age, they knew there was something wrong, but the parents weren't sure what was wrong. Neither were the medical practitioners. At the age of 11, he was rushed into the Galway Regional Hospital on a Friday, and I know on Sunday he was in a diabetic coma. So it's a very stressful time. The parents were told he will come out of the coma, but not sure. Now, I did our first town hall just before Christmas. Ulton is a biomedical engineer in his final year. He's going to graduate in June. He's from Galway. He's a type 1 diabetic. He wears the Dexcom. And I think without it, he plays football. So he has all the avenue, the normal life you would want a young man to have. And the device enables that to happen. So like it's a privilege to work in that space.
And the technology works whether you're on the pitch, sleep in the nighttime and all of that's 24/7?
The technology is incredible.
Yes.
You know, from taking a blood prick and getting a data point, which doesn't tell you a lot, you have this 24/7. Last year, I was just chatting with Ulton's mom, maybe just go back to that, and Ulton went, interrailing around Europe. So Ulton's sugar numbers, or glucose numbers, obviously go to his phone, but they also go to his mom's phone. So she has a sense of comfort that he's in a good place.
Sure.
And you know, it's a young person's issue, and young people have a life to live too. And you want to give them a device that really helps them live that life to the maximum. And that's what our device does, which is incredible.
It is indeed, and it's going to be manufactured in Athenry.
So as I said, the company's growing. We grew 20% last year on unit volume. So we have a site in Arizona, we have a site in Malaysia that we opened in the middle of last year, and we're doing more block laying and whatever in Athenry at the moment in terms of building a world-class facility, which will supply Europe and beyond, hopefully for many, many years to come.
Great. So why Ireland? Why did Dexcom choose Ireland for this significant investment?
So, no, great question. So Dexcom are growing rapidly. The supply chain is growing rapidly, and I look at it as a supply chain, not just what people would see when you drive past the M6. Like there's the factory, but there's a whole end-to-end supply chain that's going to happen here. So what we make in the factory, well, there's lots of components that come into that. Why Ireland? It's English speaking within the EU was a big deal. And to be honest with you, the work that the IDA team would have done with Dexcom Corporate is a huge part of that. And I know that didn't happen overnight. It took many years. And I think from an IDA perspective, it's important, that work is so important. I think what you guys do really well is really understand the company and what journey they're on, because there's a timing part to it. So even if you're chatting with Dexcom, 2015 or whatever, it was the right time. And I think the IDA really helped make that whole thing happen. That's why Ireland. When you look at Connacht, or you look at Athenry, or you look at within Ireland, we're located where the M6 and M17 cross. So all the investment the governments did over the last 20 years on the road network is what has facilitated that site.
Great.
Okay, it's easy to get in and out. When you look at the Medtech cluster, which again I look at as IDA work, it's phenomenal. Not just Galway, Limerick, Athlone, up to Mayo, it's all there. There's a huge talent pool of expertise there. Those are good factories. They know how to do operational excellence really, really well. And we're going to be part of that community going forward. Probably the third thing is how we grow new talent. So the universities are a massive deal. You look at Galway, or you go up to Sligo, back to Athlone again, the polymer side of things. All universities we're going to leverage and partner with. And we were in with ATU, which is in Galway just before Christmas. Barry was in UL, I think a couple of months ago, doing a session down there with our recruitment team.
Yes, yeah.
And it's about growing the next generation. It isn't about us so much. It's how does that factory be there 30 years from now with the right talent on the bus, driving operational excellence and keeping the jobs. You're not getting complacent about it, keeping them in Ireland.
Absolutely. We certainly can't have complacency, but for us, of course, it's hugely important to have ambition, and there is plenty of that with Dexcom, and obviously the plans that you have over the next few years. And of course, you're giving back as well with the relationship now that you have with Connacht Rugby, and it's terrific to see it. Can you just tell me, before I talk to you, Willie, a little bit about what was the driving force behind that?
Yeah, so when I joined the company, we obviously hadn't made our announcement. So I joined in September 22, the announcement was in May 23. And Barry and I chat a lot about, not just Barry and I, the whole team, as in how do we build our brand? How do we partner? And when you go back to our mission of our company, and it's linked to diabetes, sport is a big deal. When young kids are diagnosed with it, typically the first thing they're told is you can't play sport. You just can't. You're not going to be able to do that. Now that's changing because of the technology we and other companies make, which is great. So we wanted to build the brand. The obvious choice for us, and we met Willie and a lot of the team, and when I said the team, I don't mean the guys on the pitch, I mean all the guys you have in the back room. And to do business with them is just so easy. From the minute we met, and I hadn't met Willie before, but from the minute we met it was just easy. Really easy to do business, very like the idea, just easy to do business in Ireland. And with the brand piece of it, if you look at our numbers, our posts go up 3 or 4 times because of the reach, because of what Connacht Rugby gives to us. It's a regional brand, Connacht. You know, there's 5 counties, it's a big deal. We will be employing people all over Connacht. So I think that was a good fit. They're building a new stadium, we're building a new factory. Really good fit. Connacht play all over Europe. So it's multinational. They go all over Europe and they go to South Africa. We sell all over Europe. So the commercial guys were going, okay, this is just a great fit for us. So on every level that I think about it, it's been, it was a leap of faith at the time, but it was absolutely brilliant what we were able to achieve with the guys. And this is also, I would say, long term. It's like a 12-year agreement. It isn't, you know, a jersey for a couple of years. It's 12 years. And Barry and I couldn't be happier. The whole team in America couldn't be happier with how that has played out.
That's terrific. Willie, can I just ask you then, from Connacht Rugby's perspective, how has the collaboration with Dexcom influenced you, and what's been the impact for you and Connacht Rugby?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting us here today. I'm delighted to be able to come along to your event. Yeah, look, I mean, going back to 2016, we set out a vision and strategy for Connacht Rugby, and we had 3 big moves that were part of that. One of them was in terms of building greater financial capacity. One of them was around governance that was fit for purpose. And the third one was around facilities that matched our ambition. And central to that was the redevelopment of what was then the sports ground, now Dexcom Stadium. And we didn't want a fancy stadium simply for the sake of having one. We believed that it was going to be a key enabler for everything that we wanted to achieve, all the success that we wanted to be able to achieve across all levels of the game, whether that was getting the ball into the hands of a 6-year-old or whether it was right through to the professional squad. And so really what our partnership with Dexcom has enabled us to do is to realise our ambition to redevelop the sports ground. In addition to other funding sources and everything else, but that partnership is critical to it. So by extension, Dexcom's enabling us to redevelop the ground will also enable all of the other things that we believe are critical for this future success of Connacht Rugby. So it's been huge, and we're delighted to partner with them. Like ourselves, they are very much a purpose-driven organisation. You know, their values are around serving, no more than the IDA. Public service is one of the key values, and from our own perspective, that sense of community that we're giving back. So there's a real connection in terms of what we believe we represent.
That's terrific. Of course, you know, the brand is critically important. Can you just talk to me a little more about that, the impact that it will have and is currently having on the Connacht brand?
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, Adrian talked about the idea that this would give Dexcom a regional presence and a regional profile within the Connacht area. And the flip side of that is that we have always been probably seen as a regional brand operating on an international stage in terms of the competitions that we play in. And what Dexcom, the partnership with Dexcom, and indeed Genesis, what that does is that it actually puts us on an international stage with regards to our brand then as well, in terms of the type of partners that we're able to attract and the capacity for us then to grow our own partner base in terms of the revenues that we're able to generate. And again, it's not that we're owned by anyone, we're owned by the clubs and the members of those clubs all across the province. We're a not-for-profit organisation. It's not that we distribute out great profits at the end of this. So what we do is we try to generate these revenues to invest and to give back. So there's a trickle down here from what Dexcom, their support of us, and the way in which we're able to do what we do, and then we support the communities that we represent. And so it has an amplifying effect in that regard. So it's really, really important for us. But again, it elevates our brand. And I'm delighted that you've dressed the whole place up in green for us here today. You know, so it's, but it's been critical, and I'd like to think that the Dexcom brand is much better known actually because of the association with Connacht, because ultimately they're trying to recruit a very significant team into the west of Ireland, and hopefully everyone knows who Dexcom are now if they didn't know beforehand.
And, you know, I think it's wonderful synergy as well that, you know, sports and healthcare are coming together, because clearly exercise, physical activity is hugely important for people today, and also for people that happen to have diabetes. So there is great synergies in it. Can you talk a little more about all of that and the other benefits?
Yeah, well, I mean, yesterday we did a talent review of all our kind of media, our profile, and you can, like, our numbers are 3 or 4 times a normal post on LinkedIn or whatever. That's what's driving that, is the Connacht brand and Dexcom together, and it's very much seen as a regional project. The two construction projects are almost in sync, so I mean that's really positive. But when I go back to what really drives us, and you can hear it in Willie's voice, is the mission of the company. So, like, I had a meeting just before Christmas with a young man who was diagnosed at 14. He's from Galway. He's a biomedical graduate. He wants to be a professional athlete. He's on his way to be a professional athlete in his chosen sport. And it's not rugby, it doesn't matter. It's a sport. He's on his journey. And he's a type 1 diabetic, okay? And what he told me was, when he was diagnosed at 14, the first thing he was told is, you got to give it all up. So he played basketball or hurling, whatever he played, but he was very sporty, give it up. And to me, that's devastating for a child, to be told, well, you're definitely not going to lose. He went on YouTube to see, could he actually find examples or role models that he could link in with, who were type 1 diabetic but who had made it, if you know what I mean, Mary. And he couldn't find any. Now he's 23, so say 7, 8, 9 years ago, our technology wouldn't have been available at that time, okay? And I would say the other part about it is, like, the parents didn't even know how to manage it. So it's a condition that affects not just the individual, but the whole family get affected. He's wearing a Dexcom G7 today. He's flying to South Africa this Saturday to play in a tournament, and I couldn't be happier for him. And we just chat. It's nothing to do with commercial or anything else. It goes back to the mission of the company. And he knows all about Dexcom Stadium, but so do loads of other people. And I'm sure there are people diagnosed every day of the week, and at least there's something to lean on. And I'd love to tell his story later, because there'll be another child in the hospital who has that same ambition, and you want them to live their life to the fullest, whatever that is. But definitely sport helps bring us all together, and for us it's wonderful to be part of something bigger than us. That's really what a lot of my team will tell you, whether they're rugby fans or not. They love being part of something bigger than what we're doing in the field in Athenry, if you know what I mean, Mary.
And of course, I think for your talent pool as well, there's a wonderful sense of purpose every day. It must be inspiring to get up every morning, to go to work, to know that you're making a difference.
Yeah, no, it is. I took the team off site last August. When I say team, there were 6 of us. So we went off site, and we had another young girl called Emma. Emma's 14 as well, and she has been living with diabetes for a number of years. And Emma told her story, and there were a few tears from other leaders like me who didn't really have diabetes in their lives. And you could just, if I could bottle that, but it's very easy to get out of bed in the morning. It's very easy for the team. Now, the thing I always guard against, I said it already, is, well, 10 years time now, we don't want to be complacent about that. It is an incredible privilege to do what we do. It's an incredible privilege to meet people like Emma or Liam or whoever, and they're using our device to live, and to live their best life. That's an incredible privilege for me. I've been in Medtech a long time, and all the companies I've worked in, you have that other piece to it. It isn't a piece for a car or whatever. It's something that's life-sustaining, life-improving, life-enhancing. That's very easy to get out of bed in the morning for me.
Absolutely. And I think we can relate to that in IDA, where we're in an environment where we are supporting the economy, supporting jobs for people right across the country, but also moving right up that value chain with innovation and transformation with our client companies. So it's something that absolutely we can resonate very strongly with.
Yeah, totally. I would say, and I've worked in many different geographies around the world, but like the ecosystem that's here it isn't everywhere. People might think it isn't. It's not easy to replicate. It doesn't happen overnight. But when you look at the college linking in with the training profiles, with the R&D tax credit, with the whatever, we put it all together, it's a great mosaic. It really sells well. It's easy to work within that system. That does not happen everywhere. And I've been in different geographies. I had plants all over the world in a former life, and it's just not as easy, Mary. It doesn't happen like magic. People might think it does, but it doesn't. I know Dexcom, the particular story with Dexcom, that took a good number of years with IDA. Basically, I would say starting with building the relationship, Because at the end of the day, it's a US multinational. They could, we can make product anywhere in the world. So why choose Ireland? The work that you guys do on building the relationship, which can take many years, is really crucial. And I would just encourage people in the audience, whatever, never give up on that, because you never know where that company is in its journey. So like in 2020, it might be in a certain spot. It's just not ready. But like when the meetings happened with Barry 2-3 years ago, whenever that was, it was the right time. And then it all came together. So I would say that's like paramount to me. I think selling that ecosystem, you have to explain it, because if you're in the US, you're a corporate, you're in the C-suite, you don't understand it. It's a little island in the North Atlantic. And you want us to put 25% of our volume there, which is $1 billion. Like Dexcom is a $4 billion revenue company. So $1 billion of my future goes into a little island in the North Atlantic. Why would I do that? So, there's a huge amount of relationship building and selling that has to go on. But the ecosystem is brilliant. I haven't seen anything like it anywhere in the world. And the last piece I'd say then is, now that we have it, and our roots are good, Mary, the factories are good, they win Shingo awards, you see it all the time.
I know, yeah.
The roots are very strong. We just want to make sure, I suppose, we got here through what, maybe 30, 40 years of IDA working, whatever that journey was, the Barry O'Learys and all the guys who are not here in the room at the moment. Can we tell this story 30 years from now? I think is what is what I look at with Athenry. Can this factory be here 30 years from now? Hopefully I'm not working there, but somebody is, and somebody's mortgage is getting paid. You know what I mean? That to me is success. And I suppose for your group, I'm sure that's the way you guys are thinking about it too. How can it be like that 30 years from now?
You're 100% right, and we have a new strategy coming on stream this year, and of course our client base is hugely important. The transformation of the client base is critical to ensure that they are sustainable for the future. So that is exactly where we're at. So you're 100% right. We fully appreciate in IDA, and it's good to remind us always that the importance of the right time. And also perseverance, patience, and those relationships are so critically important to ultimately knowing when that time is right, because we won't know it unless we're engaged and actively engaged with client companies. But you mentioned there about technology is really what it's all about in your blood glucose monitoring systems, etc. But for you, Willie, of course, technology obviously has a key role to play as well, because I know it permeates all sectors and all activities. How does technology impact Connacht Rugby and the whole area of innovation?
Yeah, look, I mean, when you mention the word innovation, at times it can be one of those words that almost has to be demystified, because the amount of people on different teams, and they go, geez, like how do I innovate? And in reality, it very simply put, it's just about finding a way. And when you have a culture of having to find a way because you have to, it's amazing how much that can generate. And in reality, the vast majority of the time, that's just an iterative process. Sometimes it's a transformative process, but it's almost always a creative process in terms of thinking creatively around how can we find a way to move on another degree and another degree after that. When we talk about high performance in Connacht, we actually talk about higher performance. It's a process. It's not this state of being that now we're here, we're high performance. Higher performance is a thing that you do every single day. It's like a relentless pursuit of better. So one of the things in Connacht that we have to do, I mean, we have to compete against teams that have much bigger budgets, much bigger populations, much bigger player bases, all that type of stuff. So we have to find a way that we can compete and we can be relevant in any of the competitions that we're taking part in. And so we would tend to be early adopters of technology. We'd probably move a little bit earlier than others because we have to, and we would tend to take a few more risks. So, I mean, look, there's any amount of stuff in the sporting arena, much of which you'd probably be aware of, whether it's tracking players' load, in terms of how much they've run, how far they've run, the intensity of how much they've run, whether it's gum shields that measure impact. They're across the tournaments, and they're almost every team is using those. Where we've probably gone ahead of most of the teams, and they then catch up, and then you go ahead, is really in terms of our commercial space, in terms of fan engagement. I mean, we would have been one of the first teams in rugby in Ireland, and possibly nearly any of the sporting organisations in Ireland, that would have built our own data warehouse And again, if we were to go out to an agency to do that, we'd have to pay really significant money. We partnered with the Data Insight Centre in UG, and we were able to build our own data warehouse. We were able to integrate all of our data into that, cleanse the data, interrogate the data, and then we were able to segment our fans and target them specifically with different campaigns. As things have gone on, we've been able to evolve that. But even in terms of digital ticketing and our ability to be able to capture all of that data, in terms of our ability, which we're about to launch in the next few months, a fan engagement app, which will enable us to, for example, push video messaging to your locked screen. I mean, we would be ahead of all of the other provinces, we'd be ahead of the RFU, we'd be ahead of a lot of the other, and again, simply because we have to. And so, you know, that old saying, hunger is great sauce. The same is the same with anyone who's trying to compete. When you have to find a way, you find a way. So, you know, when you talk about innovation, it's much more a matter of culture than it is of competence. And so, look, it's something that we pride ourselves in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Mary, just to maybe, I know Willie won't say this, but
Sure.
I can, because I won't get a ban or fine. But like that Leinster match for Christmas, I have all the referee stats, and he was completely biased. And I know there's no Leinster people in the room now, but just saying that to yourself, Mary. So, you know.
As you would, as you would.
There's actually a disciplinary hearing on as we speak. So, if my watch starts going, it's the Mac alert.
Okay. Well, look, it just demonstrates really the importance of technology as well. When you're competing, competing against obviously other clubs, and they have the technology, so you can't afford to sit back and be complacent either. And you know, you talked there about the word hunger. And I think that's a terrific word when you're also, on the other hand, saying we have to avoid complacency. We always have to be hungry. And when you're hungry, you have ambition. And I think that's hugely important. Not just ambition for the sake of it, but for actually achieving the success that you're striving for. So it sounds like you're really moving in the right direction. Can I talk a little bit to you then, Adrian, just about the innovation as well? Yeah. And, you know, particularly from the perspective of resilience, it may not have been within Dexcom, but maybe in Zimmer or many of the other companies that you've worked in over the years. Can you just give us a flavour of that?
Yeah, on technology, absolutely, Mayor. So, and it goes back to a little bit of the hunger and complacency. So, at the moment, if you imagine the Dexcom project, there's kind of 3 legs to the stool. So the first leg is obviously build the factory, and we're well on track for that. And everybody can see that. I was chatting with Tony earlier, one of your board members, and he can see that when he drives by every morning. That's fine. That'll be fine. The second one is obviously we have to be commercially ready. So the team are starting to build pilot parts now in a lab, so we can, you know, in a year's time, we turn on those machines and we turn it on the right way. But the third thing is probably even more strategic than the first two, in that we have to build in as much operational excellence, which is the use of technology, to make sure that we are cost competitive 10, 15, 20 years from now. So we're trying to get a high level of operational excellence day one. Part of that is digitalizing the factory. So people will say the word paperless, but we've done this before. I know Irish companies that have done it, even not within Dexcom, but elsewhere. Yeah. So when we turn on the factory, it'll be completely paperless. Now, that has a cost benefit, it's an easy payback, but what's more important, I think, is the people we're going to hire, like it's 20 and 30 year olds. Technology is very important. No paper in the plant means everything is digital. If everything is digital, you can see it live the second, like an app on your phone, you get your data straight away. It's a different way of working. You spend less time in the rear view mirror, more time predicting. And it sounds, to some, it's pie in the sky, it's very real. And it's actually quite easy to do. And we're trying to lead that from Ireland, but also then transform the other Dexcom sites around the world. Why wouldn't they be exactly the same? And I know when they see it, they'll want it. So we have to drive that here. Sorry.
No, it's absolutely true in the whole area of digitization. Is, you know, we hear of it in services, but it's critically important in manufacturing as well. Yeah. And obviously you mentioned earlier the ecosystem, and, you know, Digital Manufacturing Ireland, based in Limerick, is a new initiative. And are you familiar with it?
Yeah, totally. Unfortunately, I have to deal with Clem McLaughlin a lot, unfortunately. So I do. I hear that every second phone call. Yeah. And we do partner with, we partner great. So absolutely aware of it. And I think it's a great, and not just for us, it's a great initiative for Ireland to have, because sometimes companies or individuals will look at that word and go, I'm not sure if I want to bite that off.
Yeah.
Okay, it's an investment. Anytime I've done the business case, there's a short payback, but it does take, a bit extra. As Willie talked about, Connacht going a bit extra. It takes a bit extra to get it to happen. But I do think, if we're being strategic and true to our core values and our mission and what we want to do in Athenry, it's a non-negotiable. That we should absolutely be doing that. The 20-year-old expects it when they come to work. They don't, and if you think about the culture of it, so if you're working in Medtech Farm, there's a lot of writing down. Who wants to be doing that?
Sure.
Scan, swipe, barcode, gone. That's what people want. That takes a ton of cost out, but it builds a great culture.
Yeah.
And you can really, when we get that done, okay, well, what's next then? I don't know, but I know if we don't do that, next will never happen.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of how we're looking at it as a team. And I really do think it's foundational for that job 30 years from now, which is really what we're after.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Having the foundations of a culture of innovation is really, really important for the future. Everything, you can't sit back. You have to be constantly adapting and changing, and everyone has a role to play in it. But at the end of the day, you'll still be creating 1,000 jobs. No. So with digitization, automation, you're still creating 1,000 jobs. They'll look a little different, but
they're highly value add.
Yes.
Highly value add roles. And even if I go back a little bit, when I started in the job, this is a greenfield construction site. I've done something like that before, but it was 10 years ago. Things have changed. So when I started, I said, okay, how are we going to actually start this? What's the right approach? I reached out to loads of different organizations, right? Whether it's IDA, Enterprise Ireland, doesn't matter. Other companies within the FDI space. Everybody was at the end of the phone. Go meet for a cup of coffee, have a really good chat, and get the construction piece sorted out. I mean, the knowledge sharing was off the charts. Everybody wore the green jersey, literally. Everybody wore it. Nobody hid their stuff. This is actually, we had a bit of trouble with this. That didn't go quite right for us. I mean, it was just, what do you need? No matter where I turned. And that's foundational, that people say, God, it's going up very fast and whatever. The reason it's going up very fast is because we did all that work in the end of 22 and in 23. So 24 was a breeze. 24 is done. And actually 25 is done because the roadmap's already there. But that knowledge sharing at the start was vital to me.
Absolutely. You've mentioned partnership, networking, and all of those are critically important for any company, whether they're long established in Ireland or a brand new player coming into the country. Can I ask you on that? Clearly, the partnership that you have together is really, really strong. But has there been other impact in the region and in the community on the back of Dexcom's arrival to Ireland, to the west, to Athenry?
Yeah, well, we engaged to build the brand. I think the brands have an awful lot of synergies. So I mean, Willie Chapel from my side of it, even getting a taxi drive there on Monday, and the taxi driver, are you working on the thing in Athenry? This sort of way.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's all people. It's a lot of what people talk. It's exceeded my expectations, way more than ever I thought. This thing is the talk of the area, which is great to hear, Mary.
It certainly is. And one of the things that you said to me when I was talking to you yesterday, and I thought it was really, really important from a sub-supply perspective, is the amount of business that has been won in the region. And maybe you could just give us a flavour of that, because
Absolutely.
They're from Irish companies, and I think it's really, really important to see that collaboration again taking place in partnership.
No, absolutely. So if you think of the legs of the stool, if we start with construction, so we're using a wholly owned Irish construction company, John Paul. They are phenomenal. And I did an update in early December to the guys in San Diego. Now you're on the screen, so you can't read the room, but there was a huge project update at the end of December, and I wasn't even on the agenda. They're just blown away with the quality and the speed and the alignment to the budget. They just can't believe it. So it's great. So that's great. In terms of John Paul, $120 million worth of business is awarded to the Connacht area, whether there's Galway, Mayo, whatever. I have all those companies mapped out. I know what we spend with each one of them, and we're making sure that's looked after. And John Paul is it's not a Galway company as such, or a Connacht company, but they have really leaned in and making sure this is a regional project. And the spin-off I get from that is just incredible. It's just incredible. When you move to the away from the construction, as I said at the start, it's the supply chain. I always look at the supply chain, not so much a factory, it's just a cog on the wheel.
Yeah.
But when you look at the supply chain, 9 of the basic components we put on our device won't be made in our factory. Like, we'll assemble it and put it together and all that, but they won't be made there. So we've worked with Enterprise Ireland. We had, again, Clem, Ricky and the guys back in, I think it was August, September. We had a packaging workshop. I think over 50 people turned up, over 50 companies turned up. It was phenomenal. And it also built our brand. But like, the room was full. We had to do 2 sessions. And then we gave everybody the right time, to make sure that, everybody, okay, if they didn't win the business, whatever, but everybody had a good feel about Dexcom. They knew who we are, they knew what we do, and they might plug in later. And then when I look at the front end of it, there's an applicator that puts it on your arm. There's a lot of moulding. And we're partnering with companies in Ireland to supply that. From a sustainability point of view, we want to be world class. And shipping this around the world doesn't work that way. So we will build that stuff in Ireland. And we found quotes in Ireland that were the most competitive that Dexcom had globally. And I mean the Tijuanas and the Penangs and whatever. The price that came in from our supplier was equal or better to the other geographies, which again shows the level of excellence they operate at. Otherwise, you couldn't do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been superb.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think it's wonderful for Irish enterprise to have the opportunity as well to partner with multinational companies like Dexcom, and it puts them on an international footing. So, there's a win-win again, as you rightly said. You touched on sustainability, and I imagine that for any of those companies that are partnering with you, you do check that sustainability credential, and you're heavily involved yourselves in that whole area of sustainability.
Absolutely, and I know Willie's the same in the stadium. So sustainability is a big deal for us. I always say it is absolutely right for the planet, but by the way, it's very good for business. So it's worth, kind of like digitalization, it's worth going that extra mile, whether it's solar, batteries, whatever it is. It's absolutely worth doing it. It's the right thing to do. And again, when you think about the demographic we're going to hire from, those guys expect it. So we need to be best in class at that. And we really do plan that it will be an award-winning site, whether it's biodiversity, zero landfill. We will have 0 fossil fuels on site, so 0. And we're doing that during construction as well, as much as we can.
Great.
So absolutely a huge thing, Mary.
Willie, can I last word to you before I go to some questions from the audience? Is there, from your own perspective around that whole area of the impact in the region and in the county, is there anything in particular that you'd highlight as to on the back of this partnership?
Yeah, look, I said to you earlier on that we're very much a purpose-driven organisation, and our purpose is to unite, inspire and represent our community. There is no mention of rugby in our purpose statement. Rugby is a what. Our purpose is about a why. We think that sport has this unique ability to bring people together, to unite people. It has an amazing capacity to inspire people to fulfill their potential and to realise their ambitions. And then we are very proud to represent what we believe is everything that's great about Connacht as a people and a place. Now that pride is great, but it's a huge responsibility as well. And the impact of the partnership with Dexcom is that ultimately they're able to fuel our purpose. But can I say though that from an IDA perspective, I think there are so many similarities in terms of that sense of purpose. I looked at, when I talk about being proud to represent everything that's great about a people and a place, the fact that you work every day to represent everything that's great about Ireland as a people and a place is something it's a great responsibility, and it's something you should be incredibly proud of as well. And, I looked at your last strategy, and I looked at your mission statement and your vision statement and your value statement. And in every one of those 3 statements, there was 5 words that were in each statement, and it was for the people of Ireland. I mean, what an incredible why. I mean, if you're coming to work every single day and that's your why, for the people of Ireland. And so just, I suppose, if I was to highlight to you as a beneficiary of the work that you do, and not just in my role as a CEO of Connacht, and being beneficiaries of the work that you've done to bring Dexcom to Ireland and the knock-on effect that we have, but even as a parent, I live in the west of Ireland. I live in Mayo. I have 3 young boys, the eldest of who's just doing the Leaving Cert. And those 3 young boys will be the beneficiaries of what you're doing for the West of Ireland. They will be able to fulfill their potential and realise their ambitions in the West of Ireland because of the work that you do. And that's a great thing to be able to say a thank you for. And John Power, who's the CEO and founder of Aerogen in Galway, he's also the chair of our board. And he says to his staff, don't think about the millions that you impact, just think about one. And I hope I can give power to the voice of the one in this case and say thank you to all of you for the impact that you're making. So.
Thank you. I actually don't think we're going to have time to go to questions because there's a red light flashing here for me. So I think I'm going to have to wrap up. But what a perfect way to wrap up. So thank you very much, Willie, for joining us here today. And of course, when we have all our clients here, companies and people, the most important thing is quality of life. And Connacht Rugby is providing all of that for the people of the West and for Ireland as well. So it works both ways. And Adrian, what a significant investment. Wonderful to hear the power of collaboration and partnership, avoiding complacency, love the piece about hunger, and of course we have to be ambitious for success. So thank you very much for all that you're doing, and we wish you every success in the years ahead and look forward to seeing the facility up and running, which will probably not be too far off.
No.
At the rate you're operating anyway. Thank you both so much.
Thanks.
Well done.
Thank you.